Welcome back to another episode of Take a Bite out of South Florida. We're back again with Michael Mayo. I just had such a good time talking with him in the first episode. There was still more we needed to get off our chest and talk about as far as favorite restaurants, restaurant pet peeves. So we're back for more, Mike.
I'm glad to be back, and I didn't even change my shirt, so I don't know if we're... No, it's great, and as you can tell, when it comes to food, and that's why
forever.
We're going to talk forever. I'm sure all the the guests that are going to be coming on later on, you're going to have a blast talking to all these.
It's fun to talk about food, and that's all I want. Is just people come on and talk about food and restaurants and their favorite things and
people's journeys and how they got there. I mean, it's kind of
it's fun.
It's always fun, and I mentioned in the previous episode about how I worked in restaurants for a brief time. I cook at home a little bit. I don't cook as much as I used to because one of those things they ask is like, well, what do you know about food and what makes you qualified to be a critic?
Right, I've gotten that too.
And the answer is I've got taste buds and a stomach and curiosity and opinions. And look, the difference between, I think, people that do it, either through social media channels and get followings, or like I did in newspapers and journalism, there's a level of fairness where you actually go out and you talk to the food creators, right? Mm-hmm. And you're not just slamming things blindly like people do on Yelp or maybe even Let's Eat South Florida sometimes. It's, you always try to understand the restaurant's point of view, the chef's, the owner's point of view, it brings, I think, a level of fairness to it. Because, obviously your experience is your experience. And if you maybe didn't have the best experience, that's fine. But always consider it from, the other point of view. And that's something that I bring to the table as a journalist is like there's always two sides or more to every story.
Absolutely.
And try to understand some other parts of it. But
yeah. Well, let's get back to you started to tell me some of your favorite restaurants in South Florida, and I know there's more.
Yeah.
I know there's more. So, where else?
There's, depending on what you want. So, like when we were talking about, Chinese food, and people say, oh, there's nothing like, authentic New York, whatever authentic New York means. Right? Is that the ones that they found in Chinatown where you have the ducks and the sides of the pigs hanging up, in the front window? Because there are places like that. Yeah. And one of them is in Davie in Broward called Hong's Barbecue. And it's this small little place that is impeccable, and they have all the hanging meats. It's in the back. It's one of these kind of classic Cantonese roast meat barbecue places that they do these rice bowls and noodle bowls. They have good soups. They have really good duck, but they do that whole crispy pig where they could chop up, and it's like you have that outside like the chicharron. It's like crispy skin.
Oh my God, that's the best.
With that little layer of gelatinous fat in between that and then the roast pig and the actual flesh. And it's juicy, and it's crispy, and it's fatty, and it's wonderful. And it's something that's keto friendly. You don't have to put it with noodles or rice. And
eat it as is.
Yeah, and they have all the good dipping sauces. So I'm really high on Hong's. That's one of those places. And then further up in like Lauderhill and Tamarack, two longtime places. One is called Silver Pond. It's gone through different ownership changes. It's had its ups and downs, but I think it's up again. And then there's a place called Hong Kong City Barbecue. Those are what I call the authentic.
Yeah,
I put it in quotes.
Yeah.
Which means there's a lot of Asians and Chinese families eating in there in large groups. They do have all the the roasted meats hanging up. And it's something that you would find in San Francisco Chinatown, New York Chinatown, different parts of cities that have a large Asian population. So that exists. When it comes to pizza, like the thing with pizza is, and I got to give praise to Delray because they have so many different stuff. And the thing with pizza,
a lot of places.
Pizza is like sex. There's no such thing as like, even when it's bad, it's like it's still pizza.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's very true.
And like so if somebody presents, it's not the best slice in the world, fine. But Delray has different styles of pizza. And that's the thing with pizza. You have the New York snobs of like all they want is their, and even in New York, coming from New York, there were slice joints and then there were full pie joints. So like, which one are you talking about? A place where you grab a slice when you're drunk at 3 a.m. to sop up the alcohol?
Right.
Or a place like John's or Totonno's in Coney Island where all they serve are full pies out of a, charcoal oven. And Delray, besides the New York style, you also have now the New Haven style. You have the thin and crispy and, well done with, some people call it burnt. It's charred, but Abitz is here.
Yeah, I've heard that's really good. They just, there's a new Connecticut style place opening in Delray.
Pepe's, Frank Pepe's,
Yes,
which they're like one of the original, like, if you call the Mount Rushmore of New Haven pizza. And there's some people who just like say New Haven is the best pizza in the country or the world. Again, it's completely subjective. David Portnoy, Mr. One Bite, he loves New Haven pizza. He went into Abitz and gave it a high praise. I like it a lot. Yeah. There's also a New Haven style place down in Fort Lauderdale called the Pizza Spot. Now, Pepe's opened a location in Broward and Plantation at the end of last year, and I went in there, and things were really good when I did a show there last year. But I was with Frank Pepe's granddaughter, and everything was made just so.
Right.
People have gone in there since then. They're saying also inconsistency issues, and that's one of the things with pizza. But getting back to Delray, I mean, you've got the New York style, you've got the New Haven style, you've got the Detroit style, which is the rectangular steel pan that they're doing at Death by Pizza. And you've also now got the Neapolitan style Rossano's food truck, and I guess because you don't really eat a lot of pizza because
I do have a favorite pizza in Delray.
Yeah,
Rose's daughter. So it's the Neapolitan Italian. She does a gluten-free crust that is to die for.
Okay.
Like that is, if I want pizza, I'm going there.
That's great. I mean, and these places now that do, are able to develop gluten-free options for those who have, the
thank God,
gluten-free allergies, celiac disease. There's, there's all kinds of alternatives out there that. Now, personally, I don't even really try them because I guess maybe I'm narrow-minded. But when I want pizza, I want pizza.
Well,
It's like,
and you don't have. I mean, for me, like, unless I want to get sick. But,
right? No, you don't want to get sick.
But it's nice to have the option.
Yeah.
And and like that didn't used to be the case, but thankfully, more and more places are making that available.
The food advances and being able to have these different options. Even with the meatless things and the Impossible beef, and if that's your thing. I mean, I've had the Impossible burgers and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but
not me neither. Because to me, I'm all about like real food, you know, and things that are made in a lab, and you read the ingredients of some of these things, and it's soy hemoglobin.
I'm not into it. I eat meat. I'm not really into the meat substitutes, and I don't eat dairy or certain types of dairy, but like I still don't really love like the vegan cheeses, and it's not really my favorite. Yeah, but give me real food.
I was just giving praise to Delray because for people who say there's no good pizza, there's
a lot of
good pizza of 6 different styles here.
Yeah.
And for those who like the traditional New York pies or slices, Avellino's is a little kind of just red sauce joint there that it's in that same shopping plaza as 3G's Deli. And,
I think that's further west.
a little bit further west. It's not downtown.
Yeah, and then there's also, even just downtown, there's so many Windy City.
Windy City. I forgot to mention there's Chicago style. They have both deep dish and the thin tavern style, which is again a totally different animal, and not everybody likes it, but I appreciate it. I think it's good. It's also thin and cracker like. You want a good bar pie, the happy hour pie at Les Sorel. I don't know if you've been in there.
Oh, I haven't.
It's really good. But again, you're not going to be eating. I don't know if they have a gluten-free. But so that's pizza. There's I could go down the list of everything. But
now that I'm sufficiently hungry for pizza, I have a question that I just feel like this might open up a can of worms. I don't know. But when you go out, you go out to eat a lot. That is probably your number one hobby. What are some of your most your biggest restaurant pet peeves?
Yes.
Like things that happen that just really get under your skin.
All right. Well, there's many, but all All right, this is just now a thing where too many restaurants now become revolving around the whole Instagram. Is it Instagrammable? And I don't mind having plates that are pretty. And look, I'm guilty too. I take pictures of every fucking plate of food that comes in front of me now because that's part of the whole, social media game. And I don't like calling myself an influencer, but I guess
you have influence.
I do have influence. I have to accept this. And but when the restaurants and I go in and I see that freaking green AstroTurf on the wall with the little neon cursive of like your dreams start here or whatever their little catchphrase is, and they want everybody to come in and do their Insta selfie.
That just basically means it's going to be full of 21-year-olds.
Is that what it is?
That's the understanding that
that's my new.
Sometimes I like it, and other times I'm just like, this is too much.
And this is our new phase, and it comes in phases because when I first started doing the reviews for the Sentinel, it seemed like every restaurant had that starter kit with the industrial bulbs and those overhanging cast iron fixtures, and it was just like. And also on the wall, it would be like light bulbs that would rearrange to spell, pig out or something like that. And that was then. And now you got the AstroTurf Insta wall. Does that really bother me? No, it's all about the food.
Right.
But some places now, it's not about the food.
It's all about
the scene, the vibe. Can you Instagram this? What do the dishes look like? And I don't care if it's coming out of the styrofoam container. I love the little takeout hole in the wall Caribbean places where you get your rice and peas and some oxtail stew and they put it in. One of the best meals I had in Delray recently. This is going to sound crazy, but go ahead.
From what you were just describing, I was going to see if you've ever been to Bamboo Fire.
I've not been to Bamboo Fire, but I'm talking about Presidente Market, which is.
Oh, what? I've driven by that a million times.
See, this is what we were talking about last episode.
Never.
This is a supermarket that's it basically started in Miami, and it caters to a lot of. It started as a Latin Hispanic supermarket, but now it's become big with the Caribbean crowd too. Oh, and they have these when you go in. Besides being a supermarket with aisles stocked with some of the things from the islands and from Central South America that you wouldn't ordinarily see maybe at your neighborhood Publix. They also have a front restaurant, like a cafeteria style thing with all these chafing dishes with all these different items, including oxtail stew and some of the jerk chicken. And on Sundays they have what's called the Sunday picnic pack, where they pack up these huge sides of also the roast pig with also that crackling skin and the chicharron, and they pack it and it comes out warm, and they obviously had just been roasting whole pigs and chop them up, and you can go in there, and I did this with Dick's team with the founder of Best of Delray Beach, and we bought a whole mess of stuff, and we went back to his house. We were doing some work and had a work session, but we were tasting all these things and the oxtail stew and the rice and peas. And it's like you could get it for a third of the cost of, what you get it at a restaurant.
Anywhere else, yeah.
And you're just feasting. And it's like, this is what South Florida is all about, where you go in and a place that you would say, well, why would I go in there? And you just go in there and you find this food gold mine. And it was just so good. And
now I have to go try it. This is so weird.
Go in on a Sunday and get that pig roast.
Oh my God.
And it's again keto friendly, gluten free, and just pig out literally.
That is good to know.
Getting back to the pet peeves, it's I think what I'm finding now is look, I understand restaurants lost out a lot during the pandemic. And now they're trying to maximize revenues again. It's a very tough time. I don't know what the future of the restaurant industry bodes, especially when it comes to fine dining. But, now these restaurants, when you first go in or when you first make a reservation, are giving you basically these time frames that, we limit groups of 3 to 90 minutes and groups of 4 to 2 hours. And look, I understand it because, you want to turn a table, especially at peak times. All right. I understand
Sunday
it.
Brunch.
Well, the Sunday brunch, if you're given the bottomless drinks, I understand. You got to put a cap on that, and you don't want people getting too drunk. And so 2 hours, that's fine. That's understandable. But, nobody wants to feel rushed. And I don't, when it used to be you'd go out to dinner and it's you could make a night of it. and you don't want to have a parking meter necessarily ticking the whole time
Yeah.
you're there. But on the other hand, I think guests and customers have also an obligation to be aware and courteous, and
Yeah, it's
that
kind of just restaurant etiquette. Like, don't spend 6 hours sitting at your dinner table.
right. Now, what's the appropriate time? I think look, the time frame is is the restaurant efficient? Is the kitchen backed up?
Absolutely.
2 hours should be plenty of time, prime time on a if you're at a Fort Top and you're going in there at 6:00. Look, be mindful. There's going to be another group that wants to come in and get the table at 8:00. So, don't be camping out and lingering and order 3 drinks after dinner. Like, there's a bar for that or another place around the corner where you can go for that. And nobody wants the manager coming up to you telling, excuse me,
we have to turn that table.
Can you, maybe, and there's ways to do it that, the finesse way, which is, I hate to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt a good time, but maybe could I buy you guys a round of drink at the bar if we could have you just move, because there are other guests that want to get in and enjoy it.
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah, and but it's that balancing act of you got to look at your what your own desires are as a guest, but also put yourself in the shoes of the restaurant. And if it's a Tuesday night and it's 9:00 and nobody else is waiting to come in, and they close at 10, nobody's gonna mess with you. Hopefully, if you linger over your coffee and then chit chat for another.
You just gotta read the room.
Read the room and see if they're all if you're the last guest in the house. And they're everybody's sitting around going like,
waiting for you.
Then maybe it's time to ask for the check and get up and leave. And likewise, when it's really crowded, also just like you said, read the room, have some self-awareness, and make life better for everybody. And just
and just have respect, respect for the restaurant and the other patrons. Like, people want to eat like you just did. So.
Yeah, and other pet peeves. All right, so. Turns out the whole dogs in restaurants thing is one of the biggest firecrackers. You can just light a bonfire.
Dogs and kids.
Okay, so the kids part, and both dogs and kids. You're right, correct. I have different opinions on each. Dogs are not kids, and kids are not dogs.
They are not.
Dogs, I'm fine. I don't happen to be a dog owner. A lot of friends of mine are. They like to go out with their little furry friends on the weekends. I grew up in a different time where, you could leave Fido at home for a couple hours, but now a lot of people seem to think of their dogs as family members. That's fine. There are restaurants, and again, I have no problem with dogs being outside on patios and in these dog-friendly restaurants. Right. I know that going in, but when I go to a restaurant inside the dining room, the only dog I want to see in there is a legitimate service dog.
Absolutely.
Serving somebody who absolutely needs it. And not all these fake service dogs that you see these days. And, and it seems like restaurants have become more lenient because, again, more and more people are pushing the envelope and they bring their little service, anti-anxiety.
And you're not allowed to ask.
No.
Right?
Well, that's what they say. But then when you see it up on the bar stool or, in the lap at the bar, I'm sorry, that drives me nuts. And it's not a hygiene issue. I know dogs are no more dirty than most people who are sitting at the restaurant.
Some people are dirtier than dogs. I mean, let's be honest.
I know this. But it's just a thing. It's like, again, the awareness, and there's a time and a place for everything. And the dogs don't belong inside or at the bar. They belong outside on the patio. I'm fine with that. But for some reason, that really it frosts me. When it comes to the kids, look, there's a difference between bratty kids who are running around unsupervised and without parents trying to parent, or kids screaming in a stroller and it's 10 o'clock at night. They don't belong there. Again, just use some common sense, people, but nobody does. Everybody in the world revolves around them now.
Yeah. Because I know some people with some of my friends with children and they are so well behaved where they will sit in the chair or their stroller or whatever and not say a word. And kids like that, and I'm someone who doesn't have kids. I don't want kids, so sometimes kids are not my favorite things to be around. But in those situations, I'm totally fine with it. But when you go somewhere where like kids are throwing food on the floor or they're running around or they're yelling and they're just being, especially depending on what restaurant it is. If you're in a nice place, like that is not the time and place for that.
That shouldn't be, but that's the fault of parents who aren't parenting.
Right.
And, now, I I still have a daughter who's 17, but she appreciated. She again, even before as a food critic, when she was 5 and 6, she would go out to some nice meals. She always behaved. If she wasn't, then we would take her outside and make her settle down and said, "You can't do that. You can't run around in a restaurant, and you need to do some parenting." But again, it gets to the point where you can have really well behaved kids that it's I think important to teach them about restaurant culture, about how to behave in these places
at a young age, so that they just continue to use that in their life growing up.
And now parents have at their disposal the best pacifiers ever, which are these little gadgets and phones that even when they're 2 and 3 and the usual terrible twos, they end up staring at their little gadgets and not making a thing. And I'm okay with that. But again, like you said, you don't want to be disturbed at your meal.
Right.
I have no problem with a family that has like a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old next to me when they're well behaved.
They're well behaved, yeah.
But the ones that are running around and then the parents don't do anything. And then that's where it's like you get into a minefield, because it's like you don't want to, you do sometimes have to overstep your bounds and just yell at the parent and say, "Excuse me, your little brat is detracting from my meal. Can you either do something about him or but that's not really your place. It's one of those.
Or, maybe grab a manager and be like, "Hey, this is kind of ruining our experience."
But I don't know what they're supposed to do in that spot.
I don't know.
And
that's hard.
It falls on people, just again, some self-awareness and some common and respect for others.
Common sense, respect,
which is things that's not a restaurant pet peeve. That's a general society. People suck sometimes.
Human being pet peeve.
And I don't know if people, because of the pandemic and everybody just lost their sense of anything during. And it was, I think we still have to. We're decompressing from it. That was 2 years of or in some cases people were going back out after the first wave of vaccines and. I was going out and eating outdoors that first summer. But again, a lot of people who are isolated and didn't go out for a while, you need to relearn some things.
Yeah, some social cues need some relearning. But any other thoughts about our growing South Florida food scene here? Some closing remarks.
I think it's incredible. I think. First of all, thank you for letting me back to kind of expound, just opine
I knew there was
more.
More you wanted to say. I had to bring you back.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing I didn't get into, about the whole food scene, but about kids, it's amazing how kids will humble you or make you rethink everything, because I was one of those people okay, I know people have different tastes and food is subjective, but I used to be a full badge carrying member of the food police, where you shouldn't do certain things, and ketchup on a hot dog was one of those things that made my skin crawl as a New York native, where you'd always just put mustard, maybe some sauerkraut, maybe those sautéed onions, but ketchup was always the worst thing in the world, And sure enough, my daughter, when she was growing up, and even still to this day, she puts ketchup on her hot dog and brings me great shame. But it's at some point you just have to let it go and say, all right, if that's what you like, you're more than welcome to do it. You can do it in my presence. And
you got to break the rules sometimes.
And not only that, she likes pineapple on pizza too. So just to throw the dagger in there. And what I've learned also through Let's Eat South Florida is it's okay. You can't be the food police, and if people like pineapple pizza, okay, God bless them. You can't say that's wrong. You just say doesn't work for me, not my personal preference. All right, that's one of those things. But it's funny how nature and the universe and God comes back to haunt you with the kid that puts ketchup on hot dogs and pineapple on pizza, but. Going to the bigger picture of the South Florida food scene, it's wonderful. I've been down here. I can't believe it's over 30 years, 34 years.
Wow.
And the breadth, it's one of those things. I can live in most places. I grew up in New York. I was blessed. I went to school in Boston. I lived for a stretch in London. And I need to be in a place where there's food diversity and interesting things. And we have an abundance of that in South Florida. I
Absolutely.
mean, when you consider from, Jupiter on south all the way to the Keys, the range of different, cuisines and how many different countries and how many different styles. And like you said, the fresh, we have bountiful seafood and all these farms and agriculture. And it's great. I mean, and the way that we've, again, these smaller kids that grow up here now that learn at the hands of some people who they go out, they apprentice, and they come back and they open up their own places. And the future of the South Florida food scene couldn't be brighter and more vibrant.
Yeah, especially we have like a high caliber of chefs in this area too. We really, they just all migrate down to sunny South Florida. There's so much to offer.
I mean, I could go on, and Driftwood in Boynton Beach.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Well, maybe we'll have to bring you back for part 3.
Now, get some of those talented chefs on here. And
That's the goal.
They'll give you their stories.
Absolutely.
I mean, so many good people, talented people
There really
all
are.
over the region. And
Yeah.
it's great.
We are very lucky down here. So hopefully we've inspired you all to try some new restaurants that you may not have been to before. And don't forget to join the Let's Eat South Florida Facebook group. And follow Mike Mayo on all social media. And remember, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please leave us a review, rate us, subscribe, share, and providing feedback is always very much appreciated. So until next time, keep taking bites out of South Florida, and I will see you soon.